Hi there, everybody. Buddy Way of Midland, Texas. Today's February 1st, 2020, and I want to talk about what happened 8 years ago today in connection with the premeditated capital murder attempt. I did a video 3 days ago called January 28th, 2012. It was the day that I was ambushed and shot by somebody underneath my home. And and basically there I was in the bathroom where a burglar had gotten trapped in that day, and I told the story. I didn't show evidence in that video because the evidence is posted over and over and over again on Facebook and YouTube, and there's just a overwhelming amount of undeniable evidence. That's all there is to it. It's to the level of absurdity is what it is, and the proof that of this capital attempted murder. And so, but I want to describe to you. Basically, we know I was shot January 28th, and of course, and then that started. My first call for a burglary was 14 months before then, but here we are on February 1st, 3 days after I'm shot. Okay, there was a lot of stuff this was an important day. Okay, this is when the second police entry happened to my house, and it's also the second surgery. Okay, and so I'm going to talk about them too and how they connect together, but basically that morning on February 1st, 2012, Midland Detective Rosie Rodriguez, which turned out, I found out 2 years later, was lifelong friends, and with the ex-wife that I filed divorce on 5 days before the murder attempt. The one that made me at the 7-Eleven said she wasn't there. She's caught in perjury, lying in court under testimony. We have proof of that. There was plenty of lies that she's caught in, lied on the police report, and not to mention the hidden police reports and everything else. Anyway, Rosie Rodriguez shows up at the hospital with another guy. I'm going to show you a picture of him in a minute. I don't know what his name is. But she was asking me to sign a consent to search form, okay, to go to my house. Well, I'd been shot and I'm in the hospital 3 days. I couldn't believe they waited so long. I mean, like, I'm ready to get this over with. I'd already been 14 months of crimes committed against me. I'm thinking the police, I was excited that the police going to do their job. I'm not expecting them being dirty. I'm not expecting that they are involved in the crimes against me. It's even looking like now it was very possible it was Midland police that tried to murder me in my home, that sneaked under my home and shot me. I'm not going to be surprised at all if we don't find that out, because if you remember in the other last video and the other evidence, MPD officers Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale are listed as being at or in my home, but they're not seen arriving on camera. That told me they were under my home. They come in via the tunnel, and somebody under my home pointed a gun at me and shot me by surprise. Okay, and so cops carry these guns. And then after all the lying and stealing evidence and all the other, destroying the life of a innocent crime victim, I'm thinking that maybe Midland police is involved, working with the human trafficking, sex trafficking ring, and they're murdering homeowners, sneaking homeowners, and maybe the excuse was I trapped a burglar and didn't know about it, and they're in the burglary business and the theft and burglary, and they're helping the burglar, so they're killing the homeowners, But we'll all figure that out. That's going to come out. The truth will come out. Anyways, she comes in there to consent to search form. I had 2 hand-drawn maps that I wanted them to check. They took that, and she's pretending that they're just going to start the investigation. She doesn't tell me that they had been in my house already, okay? And the only reason that I knew that they'd been in my house was because they had got caught on camera, but they tried to disable the camera before they were seen on camera. They didn't never plan, and then they withheld the police report from me, right? And so I didn't get the police report for that night until 2019, 7 years later. I didn't get them secret police identified until 6 years later, and that's after I offered a reward and a private investigator identified them. And the secret police were the cops that were caught on camera in my home, on the first entry, okay? And so I called the first entry and then the second entry. And the first entry was actually January 29th, because it was a few hours. It turned past midnight, so I shot on the 28th. An hour and a half later, it's the 29th, and they were caught inside my house. Okay, and and they're searching drawers, stealing evidence, staging the crime scene. Once again, it looks like that we've got a group of police that are involved in this capital attempted murder. That's what it looks like, and it needs to be investigated, because if they did this to me, I would suspect that they murdered the guy who lived here before me, and probably a whole bunch of others we don't even know about, because dead people don't talk. And so, anyways, I signed this consent to search form, and like I said, under the pretense that they're going to go to my home and start the investigation. What I didn't know, though, was that they had scheduled the bomb squad. They were creating this. It was a con job. It's what it was. They were creating this. Oh, he's crazy. He thinks people break into his house, and all this time. And they're, like I said, literally, they're probably the ones that shot me. That's what it's looking like. And so here they've got and it's still unknown if this bomb squad or SWAT team, whatever it is, if they were part of, or if they were the patsy, right? They're the unknowing party, that they're going in and not knowing that the police had already been in and staged the crime scene, because there's only one person that's in both sets of pictures, and that's Rosie Rodriguez, right? The childhood friend of the ex-wife that's alleged to be involved in the shooting, okay? And so maybe they're the patsy, or maybe they're involved. If they're involved, then we'll charge them as accessory to capital attempted murder and send them to prison, because none of us want to be shot inside our home. We sure don't want the police that our tax dollars are paying for to break into our home and kill us for a human trafficking ring. Right? I mean, can we all agree to that? I think so. And so the consent to search form, I'll show you here in a second. It was withheld. Rosa personally kept it for 6 months, almost 6 months, 5 months. And I think the only reason that she ever submitted it for evidence 5 months later is because they had got caught on camera. They'd accidentally started the camera, didn't know it. And here I'm on the internet, and here's the secret police offering $2,000 reward. Who are these criminals that are dressed like police? Obviously, they're the killers, Anybody know who they are? Asking the mayor and the city council and the sheriff and the chief of police, and nobody will tell me who they are, Got pictures of police that look like police, but don't got no police report because they're illegally withholding police report. Okay, and so I'm going to show you that where that wasn't submitted into evidence until 5 months later. Okay, and that's a clue in itself, right? She didn't ever plan on anybody finding out about that she come in there, because it was a con job, is what it was, And then I also have her narrative where she wrote on the information report what she said, and we're going to go over that here in a minute. Have the police report that from that day, and it's going to list the names, because remember, at the time, for 6 years, I didn't have a police report to show who the police were in my house that I seen on my camera on January 29th. Okay, and the police report for January 29th didn't show any entry. I did get a police report for that, but it was like this phone tapping thing, and it showed no entry in my home. All the entries was on from the 28th on the night I shot, and that was the police report they illegally withheld. It was subpoenaed. I mean, I don't have it here, but I have the subpoena where I can show you in 2013 for that protective order here. My attorney had a subpoena signed by a judge. They were supposed to turn over all the records, and they withheld that police report a second time because I'd already asked for it once before, and they withheld it, so I didn't know it existed. That's what caused the secret police. They were illegally, and why did they withhold it? Because it was falsified, because it showed them that police were here, and they wasn't seen on camera showing up, because it incriminated them. That's why, And so I also have the pictures, okay? Because when they tried to disable the camera on the 29th, and then they got caught on camera, I got all the pictures. But then I also have the pictures when they come back 3 days later. This was the big old con job, okay? And so for the longest time, I'm like, why did they wait 3 days? And then it finally dawned on me that they were pouring concrete. That's what they're doing. They're covering up the trap door that the ex-wife had told me about from where I was shot. That was in my utility room. They'd pull the cabinet out, fill the ditch up, and then lay concrete, let it dry, and all that. So here they got the 3 days in between time I'm shot, and then the second time, for the longest time I called it the official entry, the only known entry. I don't know how many times I said that. Well, now I finally got a police report 7 years later, and so there was a police report all along that was falsified, of course, and didn't have names on it and all that stuff, but I finally got one. But, why was there 3 days in between? And the reason there was 3 days is because they were pouring concrete. Once again, this I don't know how many people in this second entry, and I'm going to give you their names here in a minute, were actually part of this capital attempted murder. I mean, if they were a known party to covering up a premeditated capital attempted murder, the murder of a citizen by some corrupt police, then they should be charged. I think we can all agree with that, And if they wasn't, they need to be, they're witnesses in a premeditated capital attempted murder and its cover-up, and they need to be turn and stake witness against these other dirty cops. I mean, that's all there is to it. Because once again, none of us want to be shot inside our home. We want to live safe inside our home, and we sure don't want dirty cops sneaking in our home, killing us for some sex trafficking ring that's having pedophile parties, in some underground facility near the house. Okay. And then the other thing was the second surgery. I had the first surgery, and if you remember, they faked my x-rays. They took the x-rays. Another guy put my name on them. Other guy's missing his heel bone. And so then they took me into surgery that night, and they cut my heel bone out. Okay, so now it matches fake x-ray. Why they did that? Because that guy was shot with a shotgun, and I wasn't. They were trying to call this failed murder an accident. Failed murder was going to make the friend of Rosie Rodriguez rich, but so God saved my life, and I crawled out and didn't die. And so then they're like, oh, what do we do now? What do I do now? Let's cut his leg off. Let's cut his leg off, And I mean, the sickos. That's what this is. It's sickos. It's going to go down in history for how heinous and sick and demented these people are, and it's going to be famous. That's all there is to it, And I'm going to show you the names of the people that was in the operating room minus the surgeon. I've always left him out, but I'm going to show you that too. So I'm going to show you this evidence. Hold on. All right, now we're back to the evidence portion right here. This is the consent to search form that Rosie Rodriguez and another detective brought to the hospital room on the morning of February 1st, probably 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay, there's the date on it. There's her signature and my signature. Okay, and here is where it was submitted in for evidence by Rosie Rodriguez, and shows the date. And I'm going to show you here. It was submitted in evidence in June 25th, 2012. She kept this hidden, all them 5 months, And also submitted on the same date was the CD photos, because in one of the pictures, she was caught with a camera taking pictures, okay? And I'd made a point of it on my Facebook. So she had withheld them for 5 months, and then after she gets busted and knows she's busted, she's got to do something about it. Victim statement, she withheld that for 5 months. The consent to search form, she withheld that for 5 months. And the 2 hand drawings that I provided her, because they were pretending, right? They were going to go to my house. So they were pretending that they were good cops when they wasn't good cops. They were dirty cops, And so here's her narrative, Rosie Rodriguez narrative from the information report. And this is on February 1st, 20, I contacted Buddy Webb at the hospital. And what was interesting, I made a point of this. She says Buddy had surgery and his foot was not amputated. And, the reason I made a point of that, because I have a feeling that she wanted my foot amputated. Maybe asked the doctors to amputate my foot. She wanted the evidence cut off. Because why? It proves a capital murder attempt, and it sends the people that tried to murder me to prison. And that might be some cops, okay? And Buddy continued to talk about tunneling people in his attic. He provided a drawing, that's what it's saying, gave consent to the EOD team, and that's the bomb squad or whatever, and I signed the consent to search form. I did that, of course, under the false pretense they were just going to my home to start the investigation. Not that they were going in for the second time after they had already staged it and stole evidence and everything else. And see, they tried to disable the cameras and accidentally got caught. Okay, she goes on. Sergeant Rackow, we're going to see here in a minute in a picture. They searched all cabinets that were wired, and of course there were rooms wired shut too. Nothing was found. Racco collected tear gas. Search areas Buddy Webb mentioned as entries to hallways. Boxes on the tunnels in front of the southwest bedroom. Evident they're not tunnels. Sergeant Racco, I had alarm systems. Tear gas canisters in the attic. Remember, me and the ex-wife tear gassed the attic together. I told that story. I contacted and spoke with the neighbor. Okay, and this is the neighbor, I believe, that has in the east side that has the, I know that because it has the boys. I'm going to tell you in a minute. I informed them about the incident. I told them about the suspect's teenage sons were digging digging tunnels from their home to his and stealing his belongings, which I never said. And then I was informed that his older teenage son parked his vehicle on his property next to Buddy Webb's. In the morning, his cars with tires were slashed. I told his son began to park on the other side, and his tires were no longer slashed. They believe it was Buddy. And and the truth is the front of my house was covered with cameras. That's a lie. I've never slashed a tire in my life, and I don't even believe their tires were slashed, because if they were, it would have been caught on my security cameras. And I didn't even find this out until 2 years later, when my attorney subpoenaed the police reports, and I found this from the neighbor. Now, this is the neighbor I've done the videos with, that has the suspected tunnel entrance in the backyard, okay, that was taken out when the live tree was taken out, and I've got a video on that. And also, this is also the neighbor that told me back when we talked, his last 4 people lived in that house didn't live there long. And it's like, that ain't funny. The last guy lived in this house is dead, and I crawled out on my hands and knees to save my life, another comment, right when it first started, I'm telling him, they're getting in my attic. And he says with almost pride, that's what professional burglars do. I'm like, professional? That's what, I didn't know professional burglars got up in the attic, Anybody know that? He knew that. That was this neighbor. Right now, I got a feeling this neighbor's friends with Rosie Rodriguez. And anyway, I'm going to go on, contact Allegiance Specialty Hospital to evaluate and commit Buddy Webb. This is, this is a dirty cop, as this is. It's not a doctor or anybody else. I'm actually cleared by mental health at the hospital due to these lies, the slander and life-destroying slander and lies that have been told by these corrupt police, that looks like it was police involved in sneaking into my home and trying to murder me. That's what I suspect we'll find out. Okay. This is the police report from that day. It shows the entry time at about 10 o'clock in the morning, okay, and then they closed at 11:30. And so this is the second entry. Now, remember, I got this police report. I had this police report. It was the other one that was withheld for 7 years, the first one. So for the longest time, I call this the only known entry, okay? And here's the officers: Brian Rackow, Joe Ramirez, Dylan Hale, Rosie Rodriguez, and Todd Stanley. Okay, and I want to make a point of this. April Chandler had made up a lie the day before and labeled me a paranoid schizophrenic. Once again, I was cleared by mental health. That's a lie. I've never been diagnosed with that disease. I don't have it. I'm the survivor of a murder attempt that looks like cops are involved in, and this dirty cop makes up this life-destroying lie and permanently attaches it to my name right there. This is to cover up a premeditated capital attempted murder, and there is no truth on that whatsoever. That's a lie from Rosie Rodriguez. Okay, now I'm going to show you the pictures, and I've got these in a video here. Okay, and so this is Brian Rackow, and I know that because you can see his arm. He was it was in the press or in the news or whatever. He was made a mistake or something. There was an accident, a bomb accident, and it blew his arm off. So that's Brian Rackow. So somehow Brian Rackow, very possibly, like I said, he's either a witness or accomplice to a premeditated capital attempted murder. And these are timestamp pictures on February 1st, 10:04, and like I said, they had tried to disable. Now the question is, does he know about the earlier entry? Because remember, the police report was being withheld. They were pretending that they were going to go to my house and start the investigation. And this was, as far as I knew, I wouldn't have never, nobody would ever suspect that, dirty cops are lying. This one's interesting. Rosie Rodriguez is pointing up at my security monitor, and right here, you can't tell it on there, but what it's looking at is right there where the suspected tunnel entrance is on the outside cameras. And here she's pointing, and I'm thinking that she's telling everybody in the room, yeah, right here, this is where where we the tunnel entrance is, where we have the little kids before we rape them and kill them, or whatever. And I made a point of that before. This is our child sex trafficking tunnel right here. This is why we had to shoot him. I don't know that, but she was pointing that out there for a reason. Maybe somebody had asked her under sworn, under testimony. And this is Rosie Rodriguez. Notice she's got gloves on and she's dressed up. She's a detective. She's the only person that was in on the other pictures. Okay. She's on both sets of pictures. None of these other ones are in both sets of pictures. And here's the guy that was with her when they come up to the hospital. And I think it's probably her boss or whatever, I'm guessing. Okay, yeah, this is the guy right here that was at the hospital, okay, with her. And like I said, I'm guessing that he was a lieutenant or whatever. Here's another guy. Remember, this is all the second entry, okay? And this is interesting. She's standing back over here because my stolen cell phone that was stolen before I shot was found behind this nightstand right here. And she's way back over here, you know. And remember, I've got a picture of her leaned over that nightstand on February 29th, you know, and I believe she was planting my stolen phone. You know, that's what I believe. I've shown that picture before that I'm thinking that she planted that phone that was stolen before I shot behind her, because when I got back from the hospital, that's where I found it. And so she's back there. Maybe she planted it then. I don't know. Okay, here we go. There's another guy. And here they're searching my drawers. What's interesting is April Chandler had already searched these drawers on February 29th. I got pictures of it. So they're searching the same drawers twice. Once again, the question's asked, does this guy know that the police had already been in my house, staged the crime scene, and already searched them drawers, okay? And I'm not even sure who this guy is right here, but I tell you what, I called him Glasses or whatever. The guy that was here on December 20th, 2011, the night I was put in the back of a police car with a bag of marijuana, one of them guys that showed up looked like this guy. I don't know if it was him or not. And I recognized him because of a week earlier, the ex-wife had threatened suicide. And I said, hey, I remember that? Remember when she threatened suicide? You know, and you know, and she's the one that called the police. I'm going, yeah, see? Okay, here we go again. And these, of course, down from the bottom. Here's Rack out, and he's over here. Now, remember, my cell phone's back there behind that nightstand right there, you know. And so, well, you know, the question's asked, do these other people know? I feel for sure that Rosie Rodriguez knows. And so that's all the pictures there we have from that day. The other thing we're going in the medical side was this is from the kidney doctor, and then that's normally every day I was seeing these amputation remarks in the medical records about the about amputation every day. I mean, the 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, February, and February 1st, all the way. I mean, it went on for a couple of months. They were desperate to cut my leg off due to clues from my dad that something fishy was going on. I kept saying no, but, you know, once again, here we go. It does not to wish to have. And even Rosie Rodriguez, the police officer, mentions amputation. And I mean, I just feel like they were desperate to cut off my leg because it proved I wasn't shot with my gun. And when I ain't shot with my gun, then that means somebody else come to my home and shot me, and that makes it a murder attempt. And that proof is there. We've already proven that. Okay. This is the first surgery on the night that I'm shot after they faked x-rays. And there's Carlos Morales. He's the surgical assistant. And I tell you, one time I went into to the doctor's office for a visit, and Carlos comes into the room and sits down, and he seemed remorseful. And he's you know, he's telling me how he come in from Mexico, and his kids are in school here, and he moved to America because better opportunity for them, and then all of a sudden the doctor busts in the room like in a panic, you know, and runs him out, you know, and I just got the feeling that the surgeon was afraid that Carlos was going to tell me something. I got a feeling, Carlos might know something because he was a surgical assistant. And in these two surgeries right here is when they cut my heel bone out after faking my x-ray with the guy's missing his heel bone. And so you can see the names there: Candace Morgan, Edward Carter, Mandy Meadows, Soren Coutinho, or whatever. And then here at the bottom, this was the February 1st surgery here at bottom. Carlos, once again, Joe Dyer. He's the anesthesiologist. Is James Anastasio and Sharon Williams. And so, and I want to say, to intentionally cut out a person's heel bone to match a faked x-ray to cover up a fake murder I don't even consider that medical malpractice. I consider that accessory to capital attempted murder. I also consider that torture, okay? To intentionally and purposely, willfully cripple a person for life, especially a crime victim, to cover up a failed murder that secret police were involved in, then that's the crime of torture, to cripple a person for life, okay? And there are lifelong consequences for doing that for the crime victim. This Buddy Webb, I really think this is going to be over. Hopefully pretty soon. I know last time I talked to my private investigator, he said people are coming out of the woodwork, wanting to tell their story. 42 witnesses already, and documented. I mean, it's just incredible amount. I mean, he told me there was somebody who had communications of the chief of police that was proof of the chief of police that was obstructing justice or covering up the crimes here, and that would be multiple murders. Not to mention these horrific, medical crimes, the medical fraud. As I said, the maiming, mutilation, torture, everything, and homeowners all over the place having their homes rigged and broken into. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.